All right. What is up, fellas? We got a 7-round NFL mock draft from Matt Miller of ESPN. So we figured what we would do here is go through and do a bunch of Dynasty rookie mock drafts with you. Happy Easter to those of you guys that celebrate it. We are going to be ripping through some Dynasty rookie mock drafts today. I have dropped the sleeper link into the chat. So if you guys want to join it, Danny, make sure you join it so no one takes your spot here because I don't see you in here.
Good call.
I will also drop the Google Doc that we ended up making for Matt Miller's mock draft, which has all the landing spots and the draft capital that he put out there. Also, link down below in the description. We'll have all that information as well as the link to the full mock draft itself. So when you guys join in here, of course, once we file it through, we will get this thing going. But should be a lot of fun. We should get a good insight to the actual draft itself, and of course, we will try and flash some screenshots on the screen as much as we can. But I would encourage you guys, if you have 2 monitors or whatever, just follow along with the Google Doc sheet that we have there. But we'll try and shout out when people make picks. We'll try and say where they went and flash the screenshots as much as we can. So me and you are getting pretty itching for a startup right now. We actually did fill out our startup draft with our listeners. Sully FF, by the way, if you're listening to this, make sure to check your email for the sleeper link. He is the only one not into the league yet, but we are hoping to actually get this league going ideally by tomorrow if possible. I'm actually going to share just my Chrome tab here because I think I screwed that up. There we go. So a couple more people in the league. Again, we are just going to be doing a super flex rookie mock draft here. I will drop the in the league chat, I will drop the Google Doc here so that everybody can see what the landing spots were. A lot of interesting landing spots in this mock draft. I think the quarterbacks especially I'm very intrigued by. You could see, we'll put it on the screen right now, actually, to give you guys an idea of what the mock actually ended up looking like while we're waiting for this to load here. So we got Caleb Williams went 101 to the Bears. We got Jane Daniels going to the Commanders. Drake May 3rd to the Vikings, which of course we are huge fans of. Denver Broncos trading up for JJ McCarthy, which I think is a good scheme fit. What's going on?
No, I'm just fucking around because you can't see me put my fingers there.
Oh, true. Marvin Harrison to the Chargers, Malik Neighbors to the Giants, Romo Dunze to the Bears, Brock Bowers to the Jets, Thomas to the Cardinals, which is an interesting one we don't usually see often, but they trade out of that 4 slot for the Broncos to come up in this case. Bo Nix goes 13 to the Raiders, which we don't usually see him go in the first round. Kind of nutted landing spots down the board here with Adonai to the Bills, Aladdin McConkey to the Ravens, Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs. A lot of good ones here, and we do also have rounds 4 through 7 listed on the screen here. Harder to see, but we will, again, when people make picks, we'll try and shout out where those landing spots went. So, again, link is in the chat. If you guys want to follow along, join the draft. We do have it right here. We got 4 more spots before we got it going. I know it is a holiday right now, so a lot of people are probably doing stuff with their families, not degenerately doing Dynasty rookie mock drafts like us, but, that's how we roll here.
For sure. There's 67 of you in here. I'm sure we could fill these last 3 spots. And as soon as we do, boom, randomize that order and let's get going.
Yeah, for sure. I might actually drop her into the Discord just to make sure we can get these all filled out. No problem. But yeah, if you want to go through some comments or whatever, anything sticking out to you with the old
Happy Easter, boys.
Yeah, what's going on?
Good afternoon. Happy Easter. What were you saying? Sorry, what's sticking out like in terms of the board?
Yeah, I was going to say anything sticking out in terms of the Twitter timeline. I know Rashee Rice is in the news today for not so good reasons.
I mean, speaking of Rashee Rice in this mock draft scenario, if you guys are Xavier Worthy fans, he lands on the Chiefs, 32nd overall pick. Rashee Rice now a little bit of uncertainty. We'll see where he goes in this rookie mock draft. But I mean, just from a fantasy perspective, looking at some of these landing spots, looking at some of the draft capital at hand here, like this is definitely a fantasy friendly mock draft.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there? Right. We are filled up.
Are we full here? Okay, we are still. Yeah, we did. Rashee Rice's car is in the news. Let's hope and pray as Rashee Rice dynasty managers that some idiot friend of his borrowed his car.
Yeah, that wouldn't be ideal if it was him.
Yeah, if it is him, that is not great. But we'll hope and pray that it is not his doing. It is just like some dumb friend that he has that took his car and decided to joyride because his friend's in the NFL and drives a nice car or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We got family is overrated from YouTube here. Okay, so like I said, we are doing this on the basis of Matt Miller's 7-round NFL mock draft. We will again try and shout out where all the landing spots are as they go off the board and flash them on the screen and such. I am going to randomize the draft order a couple times
also
here.
Make it a what's called linear.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. Do you want to make it linear because it's a rookie draft? All right, so I'm picking from the 108 slot. You're picking from the 111 slot. Not great, but we'll see how it ends up going here. We're going to start it off with Microbrewer. Probably going to end up going with Caleb Williams, but we'll have to see because in this situation, like I said, Marvin did go to the Chargers, so I would imagine that there is going to be people who want to pull the trigger 101 Marvin Harrison Jr. even in Superflex leagues because of that Chargers landing spot playing with Justin Herbert there. So Marvin does go 102, makes some sense there. I would imagine at least the direction I would go in here would be Drake May on the Vikings, but Jaden Daniels gets second pick in the draft capital there. Malik Neighbors goes to the Giants, pretty barren wide receiver core. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May would be my pick as well. He does go here at the 1-3. Now, I feel like things kind of more open up at the 1-4. Obviously, still some very good options, but Jaden Daniels, 102 to the Commanders. In this scenario, the Denver Broncos do trade up to the 104 for JJ McCarthy. If you're a JJ McCarthy guy, I could see him going. But ultimately, my pick would have been Malik Neighbors as well, going here at the 104. So now 105, 106, I'm assuming it's probably going to be some order of the quarterbacks, Roma Dunze and Brock Bowers.
Yeah, for sure. And Neighbors going to the Giants, I think a lot of people would be like underwhelmed, relatively speaking, for that landing spot because he's not going to the Chargers. It's not a great, quarterback that he's going to play with. But I actually really like the fit of the Giants, using him like kind of like a Stephon Diggs in that Dayball scheme. We see Jaden Daniels, who of course went second to the Commanders, and then Roma Dunze, who went 9th overall to the Chicago Bears to play with Caleb Williams. I think that would be a really good, maybe not short-term landing spot because of DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, but I do think long-term, I love the idea of Odunze being paired up with Caleb Williams there. JJ McCarthy, of course, went 4th to the Denver Broncos. He goes 107 in this draft. I'm on the board here. Faced with the decision of some of these nutted receiver spots. Obviously, Xavier Worthy goes to the Chiefs at 32. Adonai Mitchell, 28th overall to the Bills. Bo Nix is still on the board, who got 13th overall draft capital to the Raiders. But I am going to opt for my pre-draft rankings, and I'm going to go with Brock Bowers, who went 10th overall to the New York Jets in the mock draft that Matt Miller did. I actually think this is extremely likely to happen in real life as well, because, the way that NFL teams draft is they stack up their boards based on talent, accounting for need to some degree. And to me, the first team that's a real threat to take Brock Bowers because he plays tight end, it's an undervalued position, is the Jets. So I think that at 10th overall, it's possible that he's the best player on their board. So Brian Thomas, next player off the board, he goes off to the Cardinals at 12th overall, and Xavier Worthy was a Chief at 32nd overall. What are you thinking, Danny?
Yeah, for sure. Now I'm stuck with the decision here. I'm stuck between two players. Obviously, in your real rookie drafts, you're going to have the context of, do I need a quarterback 3 here? Do I need a wide receiver 4? Like, you guys are going to know the spots that you are in. Based on, just a general board, based on like trying to compare it to startup value, I think I would slightly prefer AD Mitchell going 28th here to the Bills than Bo Nix, but those would be the two guys I would consider. So I will take AD Mitchell, but I would also consider Bo Nix very heavily, especially if I need a quarterback here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 13th overall capital is nothing to sneeze at, even though Bo Nix is not coming with the fanfare of these other quarterbacks. He should still, I mean, on tape, to me, he still looked better than JJ McCarthy. And I know you have to contextualize the age factor of, McCarthy's got way less experience than him, and Bo Nix maybe is what he is at this point in time. But at the same time, I feel pretty good projecting him to at least be like a pretty solid starting quarterback in the NFL, especially hearing how good he is, like mentally above the shoulders. We do get Jonathan Brooks as the first running back coming off the board at 112. He did go to the second round for the Dallas Cowboys at 56th overall. Lad McConkey, I believe, closes out the first round outside of Bo Nix.
He's the second round.
He went 30th overall to the Ravens, which I do believe Will is definitely going to be a possibility. I think McConkey to the Ravens is something that we should maybe get familiar with, given the familiarity there with Todd Monken running the show as the OC for the Ravens.
Well, yeah, I made the connection a few weeks ago, I believe it was, maybe a month ago or so. Obviously, Todd Monken, coach with Lad McConkey, Ravens could use a receiver. It will be interesting if they do opt for the familiarity of a guy like Lad McConkey, or if they go opt for a guy with some more size. But obviously, in this scenario, they do go with Lad McConkey. So I'd really be interested to see how your receiver core would work with Zay, with Lad McConkey, with Rashad Bateman. Not much of a size element there.
Yeah, exactly. I think when you have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, getting separators is not the worst thing in the world. And
I agree.
Specifically, Flowers and McConkey are great great separators in that core. So we do see, I believe, the final player of the first round go off the board there with Bo Nix at 202. Man, if you needed a quarterback 3, that would be an awesome value getting a first round quarterback at that point in time. Xavier Legette goes off the board, who was the first pick of the second round to the Carolina Panthers. So definitely a good value there. I mean, some people might argue that they took a guy who's a height, weight, speed freak in Jonathan Mingo last year with production profile question marks. I don't have really any problem with that fit if the Carolina Panthers would decide to go after a guy like Legette to be maybe their future number 1 receiver, pair him with Deontay Johnson. Maybe you can move Jonathan Mingo into more of like a big slot role. I think they do kind of need someone a little bit more pro ready, but a lot of the guys got sniped before their pick. McConkey, Worthy, Mitchell, those type of guys.
Yeah, I'll never understand people that are comparing Xavier Legette to Jonathan Mingo. Like, I understand SEC wide, or not even SEC wide receiver, just big wide receiver with the lack of production. I was going to say SEC because maybe people would come back to that, but I mean, like it doesn't even matter, man. Like Xavier Legette's
film, the film is just not the same.
Better.
You just see big receiver who's a good athlete, and that's where you get the connection from. It's like Xavier Legette has some work to do, don't get me wrong, but Jonathan Mingo was like a total project with like maybe a 5% chance of hitting at the NFL level. Just not a good prospect overall. So the Panthers drafting him as high as they did was just dumb, to be honest. And I think it's a smarter pick to take Xavier Legette this high, even though I would love that Mingo pick from last year back, because they could have taken, a Jaden Reed or something like that in that area of the draft.
Yeah, by the way, I was like, I thought I put myself off the course. Yeah, just big SEC wide receiver that didn't produce throughout their careers, and people are making that connection. But realistically, with Xavier Legette, like we've kind of talked about, there's a lot more context as to why it didn't happen for him. Whereas with Jonathan Mingo, like he was just not remotely as refined as what Xavier Legette showed on film this year.
Yeah, so we did get a run of players going off the board here. We did have Jalen Wright go off the board at 204 to Chan Hughes. Jalen Wright went off the board in the third round to the Cincinnati Bengals at pick 80, so that's an interesting long-term guy for them. Roman Wilson was the next player off the board. He went 45 to the Saints. Then we had Keon Coleman, who went 34 to the Patriots there at 206. That's a pretty good value. We also have Malachi Corley going off the board 51st overall to the Steelers. He was the 207. I took Trey Benson, 85th overall to the Browns, long-term kind of Nick Chubb replacement there. Yeah. And then Michael Penix Jr., 47th to the New York Giants is where he went in the actual mock. So a couple second-round receivers still available on the board here. A couple running backs that went on day 2 as well, I think still available. Not actually, no, I think all of them are actually gone. But we do have plenty of receivers, and then we'll see when people start to dig into day 3 guys here as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I might have to consider one with my next pick, depending on who goes here. Yeah, and I mean, that's literally who was going to be my pick. So let me take a look at who's available. Oh, there's one player that really sticks out to me. Feel like his valuation is going to be lower if he lands in this spot, but given the context that they do still end up getting a quarterback in this draft, despite not maybe going quarterback where I would have anticipated, I think Jalen McMillan is a top 11 receiver in this class, and I'd be willing to take him here, assuming he gets straight to capital, which he does in this scenario. So I will go with Jalen McMillan, the New England Patriot, in this exercise.
Yeah, and what you were teasing there was the Patriots in this mock draft actually passing on the first-round quarterbacks and not getting Bo Nix or Michael Penix at any point in the draft and opting for Spencer Rattler in the 4th round. So again, not a great situation for both Keon Coleman and Jalen McMillan, who in this mock draft both go to the Patriots in the 2nd and 3rd round, respectively. But you're kind of just trusting the ability there of Jalen McMillan, hoping that he can turn into, because I actually do think he's a really good fit for the offense. It's just who's his quarterback in the short term here. Blake Corum, did he go on day 2 here in this draft?
4th round to the Chargers. 4th round to the Chargers.
4th round to the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, hopefully this is not too small for you guys to see, but he did go 105th overall to the Chargers in this mock draft here. So we do see JT Sanders go off the board, who went 69th overall to the Chargers. So we got a 3rd round tight end to the Chargers there going off the board at the top of the 3rd round. Still a couple more guys available from the 2nd round of the draft. We still have Devontae Walker, who went 53rd to the Eagles, and 49th overall, Ricky Pearsall to the Bengals, which I actually don't think is a terrible landing spot for him at all.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, if you guys are tracking the sheet live, I am blacking out when players are selected just for ease sake. So if you guys are in the draft, obviously click that form. You guys are going to be able to see who's still available. So for reference, 2nd round, you still got Pearsall, Devontae Walker. 3rd round, JT Sanders. Did he just go?
Yeah, Sanders just went. I just marked him.
Jalen Polk, Jermaine Burton, Javon Baker, Theo Johnson, and then all of the 4th through 7th guys are available, sans Blake Corum.
Yep, and there
Actually,
goes another
correction.
4 through 7 guy with Marshawn Lloyd, who went 107th overall, top of the 4th round to the Giants, which I actually really like. Then we get Ricky Pearsall going off
Good
the board,
value.
2nd round draft guy. But he gets a top 50 pick in this mock, man. I think
Good
he
value.
got a great value there at 304. I wasn't considering him with my Benson pick, but had Benson and Franklin and McMillan been off the board, that's probably about the range I would have started to consider Pearsall.
Yeah, I agree. We do see 3rd round Jalen Polk going to the Dallas Cowboys. Also considered him when I took Jalen McMillan. I think Polk on the Cowboys would be a really good fit, especially losing
Yeah,
Gallup.
you see Braylon Allen went the first pick of the 4th round to the Carolina Panthers. He was the pick ahead of me. I think Tez Walker is the only 2nd rounder still available. Javon Baker to the Jags, Jermaine Burton to the Cardinals, and Theo Johnson to the Commanders, the only other day 2 guys available. So the question for me here is, do I want to go with probably my highest ranked player, which would be like an Audric Estime, who went 4th round to the Las Vegas Raiders, which I think is an interesting landing spot for him? Or do I want to just rely on the draft capital a little bit with like Tez Walker here as a 2nd round pick? Or Javon Baker being a pretty high pick as well. I'm gonna bite the bullet on Tez Walker. I think you get him to the Philadelphia Eagles. He goes top 55 in the NFL draft. To me, getting him at the 3-8 for a guy who does have redeeming qualities. We're a little bit lower on Tez Walker, but he does have good speed, good size. Maybe he can develop there in that landing spot. Again, we're out on guys like Tez Walker in late round 2 of a rookie draft. But if it came up to the 3-8 and he was a top 55 pick to the Eagles, I would probably bite the bullet.
Yeah, there's just no chance for me personally that I could take him over Audric Estime. So I will take Audric Estime. The reason being is that right now, outside of Zamir White, like Madison, like long-term mostly. Who's going to be the Raiders' long-term running back 1? I'm just saying, if Audric Estime lands on the Raiders, right off the bat, I believe he's the most talented running back on that team. And I understand people are going to point to, he ran slow in the 40. Like, how many players that run sub 4.7 actually work out at the next level?
He ran 4.61 at his pro day, so that helps him a little bit more.
And I was going to say, he runs way faster than that on tape. Is it going to be, blazing speed, 4.45 speed? No, but like on film, if you watch Audric Estime play against some of the best defenses in the country, including Ohio State, who was a top 3 to 5 defense all year, Audric Estime showed adequate athleticism to be able to be one of the better players in that game. And honestly, watching that game against Ohio State, I thought he was the best player on the field for both the Notre Dame offense and the Ohio State defense. He really showed out, smart, patient runner between the tackles, absolute bruiser. And if he works out at the next level, which I really do think he does, it could look a similar case to what David Montgomery experienced, where maybe, year 1, Estime, Zamir White, Madison, maybe splitting carries, Estime, maybe not the most efficient running back. But I do think by year 2, this would be Estime's backfield to have.
Yeah, and he's a young player, so he could always get better.
Yeah.
We did see Javon Baker go off the board, who was a 3rd rounder to the Jags. I think that's a very popular mock draft landing spot. Spencer Rattler, as we talked about, was a 4th rounder to the Patriots. So I guess in the short term, he would be competing with Jacoby Brissett in that situation. Like you said, you took Audric Estime and went 4th round to the Raiders. Isaac Guerendo was a 5th rounder, I believe. Is that where he went? Yeah, round 5. To the Minnesota Vikings, who have Aaron Jones there, who's a little long in the tooth, and of course Ty Chandler, who's a solid player, but maybe not keeping you from getting Guerendo on the field. I think I actually really like that landing spot for Guerendo as like a developmental starter in the long term, because he does need some work, and learning from a veteran like Aaron Jones would probably be of a big help to him. Will Shipley goes off the board. Where did Shipley end up going in this draft? He goes 4th round to the
4th round.
Is that Cleveland? No,
Kansas City. Yeah.
So I see CLE, and it's Clemson, not Cleveland. But Kansas City Chiefs, Will Shipley, that would be interesting. I mean, they're losing Clyde Edwards-Helaire in free agency, kind of replace their Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire role with Will Shipley. I feel like people would get really excited about that. Jacob Cowing, where did he end up going?
He went in the 5th round to the Cincinnati Bengals.
He did. Yeah, that's an interesting one. They did take Pearsall in the 2nd in this exact mock. I actually have a higher grade on Cowing than I do on Pearsall, which is funny.
I prefer Pearsall.
Yeah, what do we got? Luke McCaffrey. Where did Luke McCaffrey end up going?
He goes to the Denver Broncos. So we got a little bit of a legacy pick there. Obviously, Papa Ed did play for the Denver Broncos in his prime.
Yeah. We also have, who is Jay Wilson?
Johnny Wilson, baby.
Wilson. I literally just blanked on who that was.
Round 6 to Green Bay.
Round 6 to Green Bay. Okay, Kamani Vidal. Where did Kamani Vidal go? One of my favorite late
did he even go?
guys.
I don't think he went.
Did he not go in this entire draft?
We're supposed to be taking guys from the mock, but allow it.
Yeah, we'll allow it. Malik Washington went to the Texans in the 4th round. I actually really like that landing spot. Bucky Irving goes to the Ravens in round 4, which I also thought was an interesting one.
Ravens.
I'm on the board here. It's getting a little bit light in terms of guys that I feel good about. I do not mind Ray Davis to the Cardinals. That might be the direction I end up going. Isaiah Davis to the Broncos is actually even better. So I'm going to go in that direction. I'm a big Isaiah Davis guy. You're a big Isaiah Davis guy. I mean, we talk about a guy who is efficient on his touches. Like, you're lucky if running back prospects have like one season of a PFF rushing grade, and Isaiah Davis did it as both a freshman and a senior. So very efficient runner in between the tackles. One of my favorite sleepers in this entire draft, depending on where he goes. I think, day 3 capital is where he's probably going to end up. I don't think anybody's taking Isaiah Davis in round 3 or something like that. But in a murky backfield with Javonte Williams there in Denver, where, you don't have a lot of long-term stability, I actually really like Isaiah Davis there. And then you get sniped on Ben Sinnott and Ray Davis. Ray Davis went to the Cardinals in round 5, and Ben Sinnott, where did he go? 49ers?
Yeah, I believe so. In round 5, right?
49ers in round, I don't actually see his name. Oh, in round 4. Round 4. End of the 4th round, he went to the 49ers. So a long-term kind of George Kittle developmental guy there for Ben Sinnott.
Yeah, for sure. I'm on the clock between a few guys here. I'm just kind of evaluating which direction I want to go. I think I'm just going to take the last day 2 capital guy with Jermaine Burton. To be honest,
being on the board here is still a little surprising to me.
Is he not? Is he not in
the
system?
No, he is on the board still, but I'm saying it's a bit surprising
I don't see him in the system. I typed his name. On my life, I typed his name. Is he not on Sleeper?
No, he got taken in round 3, dude.
Oh, okay. Well, that would have been great. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I guess
Jaheim Bell is who you got auto-picked. Let's just pretend that you got him.
Woo!
He went to the Saints in round 6. Sure.
It doesn't matter. It's a fucking...
And then, Theo Johnson was the final pick of this mock draft. He ended up going to the Commanders in the top 100, very last pick of the 3rd round.
For reference, at the 411, it doesn't hurt if you do miss your pick, considering that you literally missed out on 2 players that would not have been available in free agency.
Yeah, in terms of guys that didn't get drafted, I'm just looking at this here that I would be interested in. I mean, Taj Washington going to the Colts in round 5.
Oh, that's who I would have taken if I knew that Jermaine Burton was gone. So just pretend.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I also think that Michael Pratt, round 4 to the Packers, is not bad considering the capital there. Cade Stover to the Texans is not terrible in round 4. Jabari Thrash to the Jets in round 4 is interesting.
Tyrone Tracy does go in round 5 to the New Orleans Saints here.
Yeah, Cody Schrader in round 6 to the Bills, as well as Jace McClellan round 6 to the 49ers, also kind of interesting as well. Yeah, I mean, Anais Smith to the Texans in round 7 is kind of interesting too. Not bad. But again, this was a 4-round rookie mock draft. We will actually queue one more of these up. We will do it again from a super flex standpoint. We'll probably close this video after we're done this one with a 1 quarterback rookie mock for those of you guys that play in 1 quarterback league. So I'm going to stop sharing real quick so I can make a new one. And we'll answer, if you want to answer some questions in the meantime while I'm doing that.
For sure. And then send the link in private and then I'll join that first. If he has a strong entourage, there's no way he was in the car. Yeah, hopefully he wasn't. What's good, guys? Happy Easter. Happy Easter, Lennox. Happy Easter. He was able to experience FaZe beating Optic last week, which hurt me, but he enjoyed it. He's got the FaZe logo there. We were talking about it.
True.
Call of Duty, Bush.
Yeah, I don't care.
Respectable, but I'm just telling you.
Just let me know what the. I haven't paid attention to that stuff since I was like 14, to be honest. But
fair enough. But yeah, no, I was cheering for Optic. He was cheering for FaZe, so he got the dub.
All right, so we're in this
I feel like
I will drop the link again in the chat.
I feel like I kind of reached for right over some of those second-round receivers, so I feel a lot better with getting one of them to fall to me in round 3rd. Yeah, that makes sense there, Chan. I agree. Hey, fellas, would you send Keenan plus a first for JSM plus Christian Kirk? It's just not much leverage in this deal, to be honest.
To be honest, I actually like this deal, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. I think that I would, if all it costs to get you JSN straight is a 2025 projected late first, I would be okay making that move.
They're about equivalent there.
I would prefer Kirk to Keenan Allen, potentially from a redraft standpoint.
This is a 1 quarterback league. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So I would
Like I'm
actually,
taking.
yeah, I would take JSN and Kirk. I read the one quarterback context after I read the deal. For reference in a super flex, this would be a lot closer. To one quarterback, though, I
I
agree.
still would
It's
probably
JSN and
take the
Kirk.
JSN side.
Really?
Yeah, I think JSN is a worthwhile risk to take. Like he was still a
Fair.
very good prospect. There
No, I
is
agree.
a possibility that he turns out to be the guy we all thought he was. And if that happens, he's going to be a top 15 dynasty receiver because everybody loves him and everybody loved him coming into the
Fair.
cycle. And Christian Kirk, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if I prefer Christian Kirk over Keenan Allen in redraft this year.
No, I would agree. Again, in a super flex though, like that's where my decision kind of
Yep.
goes. Because if that
Who is
ends up
this
as a
Thrash
mid-pick,
guy
that's
the Jets drafted here? So Jamari Thrash is a Louisville wide receiver, kind of like a Tutu Atwell type. He's a little bigger than Tutu Atwell, but he is mainly more of like a gadgety slot receiver. So for the Jets, I mean, it's kind of interesting because they don't really have a major slot option, but not an exciting prospect to say the least. Kind of just a guy that you would maybe hope he gets some PPR usage.
He got drafted in the 3rd round. Let's go.
That was round
Rubio.
4 that he got drafted, though. By the way.
Yeah, he got drafted in the 3rd round of the draft. No.
Oh, is that where he got drafted?
I don't know.
He got drafted in the 4th round of the actual mock, I believe.
Oh,
yeah, it was
okay.
the 4th round of the actual.
Did he go
mock.
in the rookie draft though?
Yeah, that's I don't think he went. I think he went undrafted.
Oh, he's talking about Burton.
Oh, he's talking about Burton.
Sense.
I see. Okay.
Okay,
So we got the mock set up here again. If you guys want to join it, feel free to do so. I will drop the Google Docs link for all of the landing spots one more time. Again, we'll try and make sure we flash them on the screen again, but we did go through this once already, so maybe you're remembering some of them. But yeah, couple updates in terms of stuff that we got going on behind the scenes. Our wide receiver prospect model. I don't know, Danny, if you noticed this, but I'm like 3 draft classes through all the PFF data that I needed to get in there. So we're hoping, I don't know if you guys remember the series we did last year and the year before called Wide Receivers to Target and Avoid, where I basically went through some like analytics thresholds and talked about kind of making a checklist for these wide receivers. That was a very rudimentary version of what the wide receiver prospect model is going to look like when it's finished. So ideally, it's going to be done by the time that video comes out every year, which is usually about a week, 2 weeks after the NFL draft. I would love to have the running back model done at that point as well, but I just don't know if that's going to be feasible. Hopefully by next draft class, we will have the running back model done, especially considering how good the class is next year for running backs. Ideally, I would love to have that done, but at the very least, we should have the wide receiver prospect model done by late April, early May, and it should be a really, really cool insight to film evaluation of these guys, analytics-based evaluation of these guys, traits-based traits-based evaluation of these guys. And it should be able to compare prospects, going back to like 2015 of, okay, this prospect profile that we see from Keon Coleman is very similar to the prospect profile we saw from, say, Devontae Parker or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we got 2 more spots available in the draft if you guys want to join in, and we will get one more going here. And then if there's time for it, we might do a 1 quarterback one if you guys want to see that. If not, we might sign off with about at the hour mark if possible, just because it is Easter Sunday. We don't want to keep you guys too long. And also we have our own family obligations as well. Benjamin says another one that has divided many people is 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, start 10, send Addison for Devontae Adams and Calvin Ridley.
I would.
If I was a competitive team, I would be okay making this trade.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would as well. Because if I'm looking at it from a competitive standpoint, start 10 leagues. So, having that top end production really matters. As much as I really love the long-term outlook for Jordan Addison, it's still tough to not look at this upcoming year and have your reservations for how good he's going to do in fantasy from a redraft standpoint. Whereas with Devontae Adams, obviously there's the risk that he falls off as an older wide receiver, but assuming, the last 7 years is any sample size, like you're basically locked into probably 1,200 plus yards, 8+ touchdowns for Devontae Adams, even including if he were to fall off a little bit. And then obviously with Calvin Ridley there, gets paid number 1 money, pairs with Will Levis now on the Tennessee Titans. I really do feel like that's a good plus to have on top of Adams on this deal. So as much as I love Jordan Addison, I would sell him for that price.
Yeah, and I think if one of those guys gives you top 15 production, you're kind of, winning that deal if you're a competitive team. You know what I mean? Like Addison, as much as I like him, is probably capped in the wide receiver 2 range of dynasty value anyways. It's not like you're losing out on a guy that could turn into a dynasty top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's kind of I mean, I don't want to say it's not the Devontae Smith factor because obviously Devontae Smith did peak inside the top 10, but that did take them obviously getting Jalen Hurts, getting Shane Steichen, getting
Well,
obviously
he
the
also
ideal
probably never
situation
should
there.
have been that high in the first place, to be honest.
No, I agree. I agree.
He's a good enough player to be there, and I actually think Smith is a much better player than Addison is for what it's worth.
Oh, I
too.
agree. I agree.
It's just that being a number 2 receiver is going to come with its limitations. And if Smith and Waddle probably shouldn't have belonged that high at any point, then Addison definitely shouldn't belong that high at any point. Again, you really need a lot to break right. If they get Drake May and Drake May turns into a stud quarterback, maybe. But at the same time, It's like when you're the number 2 receiver and the number 1 receiver is the best receiver in the league on your team, it's difficult to produce anything more really than like top 20-ish wide receiver value on any given year.
For sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually re-roll this draft order.
So Ben's got what? Burrow, Russ, backups, JT, ETN, Chubb, Hubbard, Roschon, etc. There. Tyreek, Devontae, Addison, Reed, Dotson, Palmer. This would allow me to use my 106 for either Rome or even a quarterback. So this is a super flex. I definitely would want another quarterback on this team if you can.
Yeah, I agree. If you can get another quarterback, that would be ideal for sure. I'm gonna grab Caleb Williams here with the first overall pick. Again, if you guys are just joining us,
I got the 111 and the 112.
Yeah, you got 112. I got 101. We are doing this on the basis of Matt Miller's 7-round NFL mock draft with these landing spots. You guys can see. We'll try and flash them as we can. But we do have a link in the chat for the Google Doc if you guys want to just follow along in there with all the landing spots. So we do see Marvin go off 102 again. Last time we had Drake May, who is a Minnesota Viking, in this mock draft, go 103. We do see Jaden Daniels, who went 2nd overall to the Commanders at 103. The tough thing for Jaden Daniels, he's going to be such a fascinating debate because on one hand, I'm worried about him from like a passing standpoint. It doesn't seem like the NFL is quite as worried as I am about him from a passing standpoint, which is good. That means that he might retain his value long-term in terms of starting appeal in the NFL. And if that's the case, like if you told me Jaden Daniels was going to be a 10-year starter in the NFL, to be honest, I think you could make the argument for him as the 101, to be honest.
With Jaden Daniels?
If you told me Jaden Daniels will start 10 years in the NFL, would you take him 101?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the problem is like saying anybody's going to start 10 years as a projection. Like, I'm not even sure Caleb Williams is going to start 10 years.
Right. But I think just given the rushing nature of Jaden Daniels' profile, it's very uncomfortable me being low on him because he can make me look stupid without even being that good of a quarterback to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Jaden Daniels is even if you're not bought in the talent, like I wouldn't just tank him to like the 107 in this class just because.
No, I have him 105, which feels low because I think most people will have him 103, 104, and potentially even 102.
No, I agree with you. The reason is you always take the chance at the 105 because even if you don't believe in the long-term liquidity, the long-term value insulation of him, he has a solid rookie season. Like you have an out to potentially get off of him for first-round startup value. And that is the premise I think you should take with Jaden Daniels is that even if you are not fully bought in on the long-term upside, assuming he gets the draft capital, assuming he gets the spot like a Washington Commanders or like a New England, Minnesota, wherever he goes in that top 5, you're going to be having that rookie contract to at least have the opportunity to sell him. I mean, even if you said he's the next Justin Fields was like the 109 in a startup just 2 seasons or last season, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he was last season. He was already a top. People were trading him, treating him as a top 10 asset basically in Dynasty.
For sure. Who's still available, by the way?
Yeah, I'm going to black out some guys for you here. So I'll recap the picks after you make yours, but I think you're looking at McConkey and like some of the other best available guys there.
Yeah, like Rome's gone. What?
Bowers
Brock Bowers is gone. Brian Thomas is gone.
Yep. Bo Nix and McConkey are probably your best options here, I think.
Okay, I'm going to mix in Bo Nix because I was going to take him with the last draft that we did. Obviously, first-round draft capital for the quarterback position does matter a ton. 13th overall pick here. Like, it's tough not to take a top 15 overall quarterback outside of the first round of a rookie Superflex draft.
Yeah, for sure. And I will recap. I'm going to end up going with McConkey here, so I'll just cue him in as my pick, but I'll just recap what ended up happening here. So Drake May to the Vikings, 104. Malik Neighbors went 106 to the New York Giants in the actual NFL draft there. He goes 105. Romo Dunze, 109 to the Chicago Bears. He goes 106 in this draft. J.J. McCarthy goes 104 in a trade up with the Broncos. He goes 107 in this draft. Brian Thomas Jr., 12th overall to the Arizona Cardinals. He goes 108 in this draft. AD Mitchell, 28th to the Bills, goes 109. Brock Bowers, 110 and 110 respectively. And then Xavier Worthy's 32nd pick to the Chiefs. He goes 111. And then you grab Bo Nix, who was the 12th pick to the, 12th pick, 13th pick.
12th pick.
13th pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. So
it was my 12th pick.
Yeah, sorry, your 12th pick, but the 13th pick in the actual draft to the Raiders. I grabbed Ladd McConkey here, who was the 30th pick to the Baltimore Ravens, which I feel pretty good about. And then we get our first running back off the board, which was Jonathan Brooks, going second round to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yes, sir. Yeah, pretty much on board with how this has started. Okay. What is Devontae worth in a 12-team Superflex?
I'm assuming he means Adams, not Smith.
Yeah, Devontae Adams. We're talking about Devontae Adams. I mean, if we're contextualizing this right now, like I think he would work right into this range from like worthy on.
Yeah. Would you rather have McConkey or Adams if this is how the draft played out?
I mean, it's fully in the context of my build. That's about the valuation, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a fair trade either way. You're talking about mid to late 20s in terms of wide receiver rankings in Dynasty. It's whatever your team would need at that point. So I would say, sure, generally speaking, IDUP, it's probably a late first, early second round valuation. If you're giving up a late first, maybe ask for a 3 back. If you're giving up an early second, maybe you throw a 3 on top of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We do see Wright and Benson both go off the board to NFC or AFC North rivals there. Obviously, Cincinnati taking Wright at the 80th overall pick. Trey Benson going off the board 85th to the Cleveland Browns. I would be really curious if Benson went to the Browns. Obviously, not the most ideal landing spot from an immediate value perspective. Like you want him to go to Dallas, you want him to go to the Raiders, you want him to go to a spot like that. But in the long term, obviously Nick Chubb coming off what initially appeared to be a career-ending level leg injury. Obviously, it ended up being a lot less severe than initially anticipated, but it's still a soon-to-be 28-year-old running back going on 29, or is he 29 already?
I think he's 20. I think he's going to be 28 this year.
So he's going to be 28. He's coming off this multi-ligament tear. He's
like 2,000 touches in his career, too.
I was just going to say he's got that many touches under his belt. Like, realistically, this should be Trey Benson's backfield by 2025.
Yeah, exactly. So we see some more guys go off the board. Leggett and Pearsall, both early second-round picks to the Panthers and Bengals, respectively. Jatavian Sanders, 69th to the Chargers. Michael Penix Jr. went off the board at 47 to the New York Giants. He probably would start maybe early on in his rookie season, depending on Daniel Jones' status. Blake Corum was a 4th-round pick to the Chargers. So early on the Blake Corum train, I probably wouldn't take him over Keon Coleman, who actually went 34th overall in this draft to the New England Patriots. Troy Franklin also getting sniped 1 pick before Danny for the second draft in a row. He went, I don't actually think we mentioned where he went. He went 61st to the Detroit Lions. So my comp for Troy Franklin is actually Jameson Williams. It's ironic that he would be teammates of Jameson Williams in this case.
For sure. How do I end up with the 111 and the 1-12 in back-to-back drafts? With that being said, I'm just going to take Julian Polk this time. I took the other Washington receiver last time. Talked about, 68th overall draft capital going to the New England Patriots. I'm going to mix it up this time. Obviously, 3rd round, 87th overall, Dallas Cowboys. Like I said, he would be a really good replacement for Michael Gallup.
Yeah, definitely. Big physical receiver. Makes a lot of sense there. I'm on the board here. I could go in a number of different directions. Roman Wilson for the Saints, who was the 45th pick, is still on the board. We have Malachi Corley, who was the 51st overall pick to the Steelers in this mock draft. Actually, that's a match that you never see, but I kind of like it low-key, to be honest. Yeah, because they have like a big downfield guy in George Pickens. They don't really have anybody short to intermediate at the wide receiver position. So
it's also Russell Wilson.
It is Russell Wilson, and Jalen McMillan's the guy I have ranked higher. I'll go with McMillan. I'll stick with my board. I believe he's the more talented player, even though in this situation we got a combination of Jacoby Brissett and Spencer Rattler throwing him the football. Jacoby Brissett's a good enough quarterback to support Keon Coleman and Jalen McMillan if they're good rookies and they come out guns a-blazing in their rookie seasons.
Maybe this is a hot take, but I honestly think Jacoby Brissett may just be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. Like what he's shown every opportunity he's been able to start. Obviously, the Colts a couple years ago, spot starts last year for Washington. Like he's a good quarterback.
Cleveland especially was the big one. He was like he turned Amari Cooper into a stud wide receiver, and he's been the best quarterback play we've seen in Cleveland in 20 years.
100%. Yeah, no, Cleveland's obviously the other spot. You mentioned, or I mentioned too. He started that year for the Colts. He spotted this year for Washington. Like every single situation he's been in, he's looked like at least a bridge level quarterback. And I honestly do believe, again, I think that the New England Patriots will take a quarterback. But if they don't take a quarterback, I would not be shocked if Jacoby Brissett was able to at least hold that offense for the first half of the year.
Yeah, exactly. He'd have to develop a bunch of young guys basically in this situation, but not a terrible option there.
Sure.
Roman Wilson goes 45th to the Saints. He was the next pick. Devontae Walker was a pick to the Eagles in the second round. Javon Baker, a third rounder to the Jags. Braylon Allen, early fourth rounder to the Panthers. Malachi Corley, like I said, 51st pick to the Steelers. Marshawn Lloyd, a fourth round pick to the Giants. Spencer Rattler, a fourth round pick to the Patriots. Will Shipley, a fourth round pick to the Chiefs. And then Audric Estime, a fourth round pick to the Raiders, and we're caught up. So
did I black out all the names that I needed to?
I think you got everybody for the most part.
That's the only one.
Braylon, you got
Davis.
Javon Baker, you got. Yeah, I think you should be good here.
Okay, so now I actually have to see who's available.
Ray Davis just went off the board to the Cardinals there, so that was the last pick that we just saw.
I think the direction I will go is Malik Washington, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody obvious. I mean, like
Malik Washington, maybe you go with a Brendan Rice or a Jermaine Burton. Those would be the other two options maybe you'd be considering.
Honestly, I mean, I'm just going to put my grade where my mouth is here. I think Isaiah Davis available too? Oh, shit. I'm between those two guys.
Garendo and Davis?
Yeah, I believe they came up back-to-back on my grading for you took Isaiah Davis, I believe, last time, so I'm going to go with Garendo this time if I can find him. Isaac Garendo obviously goes 5th round here to the Minnesota Vikings. Aaron Jones, short-term deal. Like you said, Ty Chandler's the only other running back on that team as of right now. Alexander Madison obviously leaving in free agency. And I watched Isaac Garendo, man, and I was really impressed with what I saw. Obviously, people are going to point to the fact that he tested like a freak athlete, but I thought the film looked better than I would have anticipated going into it. And I really do feel like if he hits his upper echelon upside at the next level, it could be a very similar situation to that of Isaiah Pacheco, which was funny because initially when we went into it, we're like, oh, Isaac Garendo tests like a freak. Is he this year's Isaiah Pacheco? And then I actually watched the film and he's like, oh, well, he actually kind of reminds me of Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to roll with Brendan Rice here. I like maybe would have gone with Malik Washington, but I like the third round capital, top 77 pick there to the Raiders. A landing spot really that has no long-term receiver options with Devontae Adams being older, Jacoby Myers a little bit older as well. And, who knows what's going to happen there. So I would have been between like Brendan Rice, Malik Washington, Jermaine Burton, guys like that. But I go with Brendan Rice there.
Yep. No, I dig that. I was between obviously him, Washington, Isaiah Davis, and your camera just goes off.
Yeah, it just decided to die on me. So I will quickly replace the battery if you want to hold down the fort.
Sounds good. So who just goes here? What? Theo Johnson, Brendan Rice. So let me just take a look here. Is Jermaine Burton actually off the board this time? Okay, no, he's not. So I didn't miss that this time. Okay. So we got a couple comments. My boy Cheesehead. Yes, sir, Lennox. You'll have a link to the mock draft. Yeah, well, if we do another one after this, we just send it in the chat. So stay tuned for that. How much do you think having a stable QB3 matters in Superflex when you already have 2 elite quarterbacks? I mean, not an expensive QB3, but like honestly, in that type of situation, let's just say my first 2 quarterbacks are like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. Like, there's no need for you to have like a quarterback 15 or better. Like, if you have Will Levis as your QB3 or like Bryce Young as your QB3, like that's about as high as I would go. Otherwise, I would try to take the value that I have at my quarterback 3 spot. If it's like a Dak, if it's like a Purdy, if it's like somebody just above that tier of Levis and Young, and I would try to see if I can get equivalent wide receiver value at that point. So that's the transition I would make. Burton and Jamari Thrash both go off the board next. Bucky Irving following up suit. Luke McCaffrey goes, and Bush is about to be. Oh no, Bush already made his pick, so we are good there. Let me unhide myself as well because that wasn't ideal with the messages flaring above my face the whole time.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with QB3s. I think people, if you have a Brock Purdy, a Dak Prescott, like you said, as your QB3, you're probably leaving way too much inherent value from your roster on your bench each and every single week. It's like, it's nice to have those guys when you suffer injuries, but honestly, when you don't need to prep for injury that heavily. It's just like when I suffer an injury at my quarterback position and I have to go buy a Geno Smith or something on the low, or buy even like really, really cheap options last year, like Josh Dobbs, Joe Flacco types or whatever. I would just rather do that when the time comes rather than like prepare for that scenario by having a QB core of Lamar, Herbert, and Purdy.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So question here. You're in a situation where your quarterback core is Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and Dak or Brock Purdy. Are you more likely to move one of the elite guys for a CeeDee Lamb plus, Justin Jefferson plus, Jamar Chase plus, or are you more willing to move the Purdy or Dak for whatever the equivalent third-round startup value player would be, whether that's like Jahmyr Gibbs, if you can work up from those guys, whether that's,
I would be more likely to move the third-round quarterback or the QB3 that I have, but if quarterbacks aren't that valuable in your league, which is very likely the case if you have 3 really good quarterbacks, then I would be more likely to move one of your higher end guys.
Fair. So like hypothetically, it deals
if like me and you play in leagues where like Brock Purdy and Tua and Dak and those guys have a lot of value still.
For sure.
But if you're in a league where they don't, and that's why you have 3 of them, then you're probably better off just moving one of your higher end guys.
Well, hypothetically, let's just say the offer is you have Justin Herbert and somebody offers you Justin Jefferson straight up or Jamar Chase straight up, or assume one of these stud wide receivers here. So that's your one trade package. Your other trade packages, let's say you have Brock Purdy and somebody's willing to offer you
Jalen Waddle.
I was going to say like Roma Dunze, like something like that, like in that range of wide receiver.
Yeah, I think I'd be more likely to take Jalen Waddle, Roma Dunze, whatever guy that I can get for the third quarterback, just because generally speaking, the NFL is very reliant on elite quarterbacks. So as much as I like Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, guys like that, they're more likely to lose value, in my opinion, than Justin Herbert is.
No, I think that's fair. I will say from a pure, like, if you're in a contending window, I don't mind,
you could also
especially if you have
evaluate the situational point production that you're going to get from those players. It's like if Herbert and Dak project similarly and you don't really care about the long-term value, you can move Herbert for a much better asset.
Yeah. Yeah, and it all depends, because obviously once you have a Brock or a Dak at that point, it's kind of because you believe in that player, because realistically, like you said, Dak due to his age, Brock Purdy due to if he gets a contract, maybe the 49ers situation gets a little bit worse. Like they are a lot more volatile, I would say, than, for example, Justin Herbert just changed coaches, got Greg Roman as his coordinator, lost his top 2 wide receivers, and he's still a first-round startup pick. So that kind of shows you the liquidity that a guy like Justin Herbert has. But like you kind of mentioned, though, if you can stomach, the loss of liquidity there, potentially if Dak is an old quarterback, misses some time or leaves the Cowboys after the year, or Brock Purdy, of course, if he gets his extension, loses maybe like George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, like that's the risk that you're taking there pretty much.
Yeah. I think that's the same idea that I look for. It's like, in the NFL, the turnover that you get with some of these players is very cyclical. Like the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL are going to retain value year over year. The middle class, maybe teams start thinking, oh no, like, do I want to pay Brock Purdy? Do I want to pay Tua Tagovailoa? And then their teams move on from them or whatever the case is. Those guys are more volatile than the elite guys, because those Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson guys, like teams are going to back up Brinks trucks on these guys the rest of their careers.
And of course, the issue with, like you mentioned with Tua, with Brock, in terms of do we pay them, do we not? And then obviously the issue with Dak is like, what if, he's an older quarterback, suffers injury? Like we saw just a couple seasons ago, like Russell Wilson was kind of the older quarterback going in that range of the startup. And obviously, we've seen what happened. I believe in that.
That's the other thing too. Like if Dak regresses at all as a player, he's going to lose a lot of value.
For sure. No, that is definitely the risk. He's a lot more volatile.
You're only as good as your production. Same with like a quarterback over 30 is almost the same as a running back over 25. It's like you're only as good as your production.
For sure. If he signed a 4-year extension tomorrow, that would help alleviate a lot of that volatility. But the last report we literally got was rap sheets saying, oh, they're going to extend this thing as long as they can. Like, okay.
Yeah. So this one is a 1 quarterback draft, by the way. So, nobody troll and take quarterback super early. We are going to go on the basis of the same landing spots that we were just doing, but this is a 1 quarterback draft. So we are going to get some 1 quarterback love in here for those folks. Yeah. But yeah, join up in the draft and we'll get this thing going, and then we'll probably sign off of here once this draft is over. Austin says, I like having a startable QB3 like Carr/Geno to start the year, either for trade or in case I need a guy. For me, I actually value accumulation type of quarterback threes a lot more than I value like stable, steady Eddie production guys. Like, of course, if I'm in a competitive window, I would love to have a guy like Geno Smith as a QB3 in case one of my guys gets injured. But to me, the better idea or the better plan was to have last year, for example, Brock Purdy as my QB3, who could gain a lot of value, or have Sam Howell as my QB3 last year, who could have gained a lot of value, or Jordan Love as my QB3 last year, could have gained a lot of value. So this year, those guys are Bryce Young, Will Levis, any of the rookie quarterbacks, maybe JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, those type of guys. I would rather have a guy like that as my QB3 personally, just because they can gain a shit ton of value. And then if I want to transition to a cheaper quarterback 3, because I'm a competitive team, like if Bryce Young hits, you're going to be able to sell him for a much better asset. Like you could probably parlay a Bryce Young after he hits and he's a 3rd or a 4th round starter pick into Jalen Waddle plus Geno Smith. You know what I mean? Like I would rather take the risk that he hits that range of outcomes, and worst case scenario, he's just like a not very productive QB3 for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we need 3 more people to join. So 293 of you in here. Surely we can get 3 more to get this mock underway. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you guys have Easter or whatever you celebrate today. We do as well. So let's get her going.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll see if Danny can get a pick other than 111 or 112 in this draft as well,
Literally.
which would be kind of funny if he does not. But yeah, again, too, I want to reiterate, Sully_FF. If you applied to be in our Listener Dynasty League, check your emails, boss. You won a spot into it, and we're waiting on you right now. You're the last one that has not joined, and if we don't get you in here by tomorrow, we're probably going to re-roll your spot. So Sully_FF, this is an official message out to you to make sure to check your emails.
For sure. Balancing the stream and some Fishing Planet right now. Love that.
I don't even know what that is, but sure.
What landing spots are y'all basing this off of? Where can I find? So it is.
I will drop it in the chat one more time.
Yeah, it's also pinned in the description as well.
Yeah, in the link in the description, it's there. I will also put it on the screen, and then we should be out of here pretty soon. But we just need 2 more of you to join here, and then we can get this thing going.
For sure.
Oh man, I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get really annoyed with Twitter.
Twitter
this time of year, I always do.
Unbearable.
This time of year, we're running out of shit to talk about with these prospects, so we're just making stuff up. At this point, this is the time of year that like Will Levis became like a -200 favorite to be like the 2nd pick in the draft last year, and CJ Stroud was the guy the whole time, by the sounds of it, for the Texans. Like, it's Lions season, it's smokescreen season. I'm definitely not excited about this upcoming month of Twitter because the conversations just get so unbearable. In my opinion, I know they're doing top 30 visits and stuff like that. We should just have the draft like this week.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the other point too that I believe is the case is if I have to hear one more person talk about how Drake May shouldn't be a top 10 pick, I'm going to lose my marbles. It's like, well, how can we look at this 6'5", 225-pound, ultra mobile, big armed quarterback with 2 years of experience and good experience and talk about this guy like he's some quarterback 5 in this class? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. We're talking about him like he's Christian Hackenberg, apparently, is what we're.
That was the worst comp I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, literally the worst take I've ever seen from Kirk Benkert, who works for Sleeper. Shout out to Sleeper. We're using your platform, but like, what is that guy saying?
Dude, like, where are even the similarities stylistically?
There is none. I don't know. The comparison he tried to make was the steam he got, not necessarily the player. But like, to be honest, the steam for Drake May was A, warranted because he was very good, and B, it's not like this just started. Like, Christian Hackenberg's steam just started right up till the NFL draft, like after the Senior Bowl, after all that kind of stuff. And Drake May's been getting steamed as the potential 2nd pick in the draft since early in his sophomore year. It's not like he just got steamed up there now.
Yeah, can we also talk about the fact that Christian Hackenberg's best year in college was literally 20 touchdowns in 12 games, whereas Drake May's worst year was 24. On top of that, we're talking about Christian Hackenberg. He didn't have a single season. Obviously, this is including sacks, so take it for what you will. You can find the exact rushing yards for him, I understand, but including sacks, he did not finish a single year with positive rushing production in college, whereas Drake May's best asset may arguably be just how good he is with his legs at the next level, to be honest.
Yeah, I re-rolled it a couple times to make sure that you weren't picking at the end of the round.
Did I get 111 again?
You got 111, 109,
Oh
and
my
112
God.
the 3 times I just re-rolled. So
Holy shit.
anyways, okay. It is a 1 quarterback rookie mock that we're doing, by the way. And also, like I said, pinned in the chat here is the actual link to the spreadsheet that you can see all of the picks there. I will black out all these names because they haven't been selected yet. But yeah, this will be the last one that we do. 1 quarterback rookie mock. And Voice of Reason says at least it wasn't a Brock Osweiler comp. Dude, the friggin' the takes on Drake May need to stop immediately. They're so bad. And there's like, honestly, like I really want to not be like the guy that's like, you guys are dumb. Like, what are you watching? Because quarterback is a difficult position to evaluate. It is very subjective. There is, great prospects that fail at the NFL level. But man, like, what are you guys watching that's also making you guys think this?
Also, what I don't get is I understand picking holes at Drake May's game. Like, you can say, is he the most accurate on a consistent basis? No, he has spotty ball location at times. Is his footwork in the pocket at times? Can we not do that right as I'm talking?
Sorry, I was just showing it because people were on the clock there.
Yeah. Does he have inconsistent footwork at times? Absolutely. But the context we are ignoring when we're talking about Drake May as a finished product is that he is the second youngest quarterback of the top quarterbacks in this class. The only quarterback younger than him is JJ McCarthy. Like, why are we comparing the exact, footwork and film and, consistent accuracy of 24-year-old quarterback prospects to a guy who just turned 21? Or
not to mention, like, people are making concessions for JJ McCarthy's failures where it's like, oh, he might not be totally ready yet. He wasn't asked to carry the offense. It's like, dog, like Drake May was asked to carry the offense and he's the same age as JJ McCarthy.
For sure. By the way, I always end up with a pick that misses out on the tier.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on the board here. I'm going to take Xavier Worthy, who again in this mock draft went 32nd to the Chiefs. Again, I'll just rattle off where these guys went. Marvin, 5 to the Chargers. Neighbors, 6 to the Giants. Romo Dunze, 9 to the Bears. Brock Bowers, 10 to the Jets. Brian Thomas, 12 to the Arizona Cardinals in a trade down with the Broncos. Danny takes Caleb Williams, who went 101 to the Chicago Bears. I take Xavier Worthy, 32nd to the Chiefs. And then Jonathan Brooks is the next player off the board as the 56th pick to the Dallas Cowboys. So a lot of good wide receivers in the first round still on the board. 28th overall pick to the Buffalo Bills. A.D. Mitchell just went off the board. In a 1 quarterback draft, this would be a very interesting poll because I think it would probably make the top 7-8 picks really valuable because you'd want some of those high-end first-round receivers in addition to maybe Jonathan Brooks being a second-rounder to the Cowboys there. That pick 8 to 10 range would probably gain some value in this case with a 1 quarterback draft.
Yeah, I mean, I considered, one of those other players, obviously, AD going where he went, Xavier Worthy going where he went, Dallas Cowboys, Jonathan Brooks. But I just come back to at this point, they are in a tier, in my opinion, with Caleb Williams. So it's kind of a pick your flavor. If you guys prefer, Worthy, Mitchell, Brooks, etc. there, whether you prefer Caleb Williams, I think either is a fine pick.
Yeah, for sure. McConkey, again, 28th overall pick, I believe, 30th overall pick to the Bills or to the Ravens, sorry. Jaden Daniels went 2nd to the Commanders, and then Drake May went 3rd to the Vikings in a trade up with the Patriots. So into the second round here of this 1 quarterback draft, we are seeing some quarterbacks go off the board. So I think a lot of people look at it like if I told you, oh, the 205 in a 1 quarterback league versus the 205 in a superflex league, which one is more valuable? We would say the 205 in a superflex league is more valuable. But at the same time, the picks are going to have the same players off the board for the most part.
I mean, it's still true.
The quarterback value makes the pick more valuable because you're going to get better players for the most part. But the quarterbacks at 205 are going to be the same quarterbacks that are off the board in a 1 quarterback draft and a superflex draft.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do feel like the context there obviously is if Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy do get the draft. I mean, JJ McCarthy does end up going here, but some drafts I can see him falling a little bit in 1 quarterbacks. So that's the context there why a 205 and a 1 quarterback would be more valuable, because although the top 3 guys I'd say are locks to be gone by that pick, at the same time, A, it's more likely they make it to you at that pick, and B, even if they don't, the JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix most likely in most draft rooms falls a little bit. So I'm on the clock here. Pearsall, Franklin, just go. I don't know exactly who's available, but I do know that Jalen Wright is. Brooks says go. So Jalen Wright is the leader here. Oh, Xavier Legette is available. I don't know why he's here at the 2-6.
Yeah, I'm on the board here with my next pick here. Do I
Coleman?
want to go with Keon Coleman? Would definitely be interesting. I think, yeah, Jalen Wright is probably where I'm going to end up going here with Benson off the board already.
Especially
Yeah,
in
I'm
one
going to
QB.
go with Jalen Wright. Yeah, especially in a one quarterback, like you said, the running back position would gain a little bit of value there because, the wide receiver position, in my opinion, in a one quarterback league is the most valuable position, but the running back position gaining a little bit of value because QB is undervalued.
Yeah. No, by the way, Ryan, that definitely makes a ton of sense. Like if you're prepping for your own rookie draft too. I mean, I don't think JJ McCarthy is going too high at the 2-3. I just think in some rooms in a one quarterback, he may fall. I honestly think his value may just be, mid-second round in a one quarterback, assuming he gets in this scenario, top 4 overall draft capital.
Yeah, for sure.
Jason Tatum,
blanking out some names here so we can see them all.
We got Jason Tatum in the cut.
Is that who that is?
No, imagine. You know who Jason Tatum is?
Yeah, he's a basketball player, right?
Yeah. Imagine it was.
Yeah. Roman Wilson off the board there. Again, he was a 45th pick to the Saints. I don't know about you, but I totally feel like this is quite accurate in terms of the order in which these receivers went off the board in this draft from Matt Miller. Because to me, do I think that Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Malachi Corley, and all these guys, Tez Walker, are better than Troy Franklin and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk? No. But do I think the NFL is going to draft them higher? Probably. I would be shocked if Troy Franklin's like the 15th or 18th wide receiver off the board, dude.
That would be insane. But I mean, in this example, still going top 64, still going to the Detroit Lions. Like, if you're getting him at value there, I would be really happy because I honestly think the Lions may just be one of the better fits for Troy Franklin. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously, you have Sam Laporta, but what he does for the offense, opening up that third level, like it's kind of what they thought Jamison Williams would be able to do for their offense. So I guess if they take him, that would be basically them admitting that Jamison Williams is probably not going to work out, which is the assumption we have to make if they do that in this example.
Well, yeah, and in my estimation, I think Lions fans have mixed opinions on this, to be honest. But I don't think Jamison Williams has worked out, and I don't think he will. So I don't know why. Like, I've seen people say, oh, like, this is going to be his year. Like, this is his year to break out and stuff. Josh Reynolds is gone. I'm like, in my estimation, like, Jamison Williams should have been a lot better last year, and especially as a rookie, too. I know he was coming off the injury as a rookie, so maybe if you want to just be the most optimistic you can be on Jamison Williams, sure, wipe away his rookie season. But after he came off suspension last year, if he was indeed an actual good football player, he would have produced down the stretch of the season. Josh Reynolds was not a prohibitive guy in his way of production.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Shipley goes. I mean, Jalen McMillan is just sticking out like a sore thumb here, so I will take him.
What are your thoughts on like those third-year wide receivers that maybe still have some truthers? Treylon Burks is the other one that I think some people are saying, hey, what if they move him into the slot now? Like he could be more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like Burks would probably be the one I like the most of that group, like even over like JMO. But I mean, I don't have much expectation for any of them. Like I will say though, if one's going to work out, it's going to be the physically dominant wide receiver a la the Nico Collins route, which I think Treylon Burks may be able to take. Obviously, new context of the offense there. Brian Callahan, Will Levis potentially taking a step. If they go tackle at 7, that also opens up a ton of opportunity because they won't have a Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr. to compete with for targets. But at the same time, I mean, you're completely painting the optimistic path for him if you're believing in any of those guys. And realistically, unless it's like a throw-in or it's like, an 19th round startup pick at that point, they're not on my board.
I think it's the one saving grace that guys like Treylon Burks, even QJ, have is that coming into the NFL, we should have known that they were going to take some
physical
time.
Raw receivers. Yeah.
We should have known that they were going to take some time. It was our fault by suggesting that they should be year one producers. And I wouldn't be shocked if we do get one example out of QJ, Treylon Burks, Jamison Williams, some of these more raw guys coming out. I wouldn't be shocked if one of them does end up hitting. It would just be, again, they're historical outliers when you consider what they did as rookies versus what they're expected to do going forward. It's just the one thing I keep coming back to with QJ, with Treylon Burks is like, if any of us were expecting early production, we probably shouldn't have been, because they were raw receivers on film. Everybody who knew anything about wide receiver evaluation said, you're going to have to give these guys time. You're going to have to be patient with them. But then again, we turn around at the same token, and midway through their rookie season, we're pissed that they're not producing.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was actually looking back a little bit at QJ's reception perception profile coming out last year. And obviously, you know, the big weakness would be his zone coverage grade, only a 12th percentile zone coverage grade there with a 72.8% success rate. But looking back, man, he's still graded 85th percentile against man, 59th percentile against press. It's just the only problem is none of that translated in his first year. So yes, I am pessimistic about QJ really paying off, but at the same time, who knows, man? Like we saw, for example, Rashid Rice, who had a much worse prospect profile, ball out in year one. Maybe with Quentin Johnson, it was just a lot of more of the mental side of the NFL rather than the physical aspect. But I mean, again, you're painting yourself a completely optimistic path here. I'm not saying this is gospel. I'm saying this as if you're a believer, this is probably the train of thought that you're under.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing I would say about QJ too is his missed tackles force percentage. I'm in the process right now of collecting data for our wide receiver prospect model. His missed tackles force percentage in college of 39.5%, that's how electric he was after the catch in college, is the best that any wide receiver prospect in the 2023, 2021, 2020, and 2024 class has posted. So he does have a redeeming quality. They just didn't really they used him as like Mike Williams, and that was never going to be his role at the next level unless he developed into it. What they should have used him more so as is like a short to intermediate threat and allow him to develop his deep game a little bit further. Now, again, I'm not really optimistic that he ever hits at the NFL level, but if he does, I think they need to get him back to doing what he did well in college, which was kind of design touches, get him the ball in his hands.
Well, it's funny because the way people are describing how, you know, oh, this is how Xavier Legette should be used going into the NFL. It's like, well, that's kind of how Quentin Johnson should be used, right? Like people are saying, like, get the
are
ball
people
in his
saying
hands
that about Legette?
I know people have said he's not as refined as a route runner. It's Jonathan Mingo all over again, yak, but he doesn't really.
I don't see
that at all.
Watching. I don't think he's a perfect route runner by any means, but he's definitely not like a completely raw idiot route runner who has no idea what he's doing. Like to me, I watched him and I was like, yeah, there's some stuff to build around here.
Oh, I completely agree. Like we both think he's a top 8 receiver. I'm just saying I've seen that sentiment thrown on Twitter that he's some raw receiver because he didn't produce prior to this year.
Yeah, no, I think people are definitely likely to do some stuff like that when they don't like a prospect. That's just something that's going to happen most of the time. I'm trying to figure out who's on the board here still. So Isaiah Davis goes. I
mean, no, Garendo's gone. Okay, so you're.
Yeah, I'm looking at the actual board here.
Yeah, sorry, I was not keeping up with that. My bad.
I think Sinnett's still available, right? Yeah, I'm gonna grab Ben Sinnett.
Yeah, that's a really good value. Holy shit.
Have y'all talked about Javon Baker at all? I keep seeing him all over the timeline. So yeah, there's definitely some people that I value their opinion that are quite high on Javon Baker. I know Angelo Fantasy is really high on him. He said he has a first round grade on Javon Baker. So
I liked Baker, but not that high.
I liked Baker also, but to me, I viewed him as like your prototypical third round wide receiver that could develop into something more. I don't think he has elite speed. I don't think he particularly separates well on short and intermediate routes. I think what he represents is a downfield physical guy that has good hands. You comped him, I believe, to like kind of like a Michael Gallup type of player, right?
I can't get that comp out of my head. I think he plays almost exactly like Michael Gallup.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me a little bit of De'Ami Brown when he was coming out of North Carolina as well, which is like a good and a bad kind of range of outcomes there. It's like, bull case, he turns into Michael Gallup. Con, he kind of turns into more of like a De'Ami Brown. I like Javon Baker. I think he's got some redeeming analytics thresholds that he hits too. I know his yards per route run was really high. Yards per reception was really high. But again, I view him more as just like kind of a downfield receiver. And generally speaking, those guys don't usually hit at a high level in the NFL. But I do like the idea of him going to Jacksonville, which is where he went in this draft. I think that him and Gabe Davis kind of playing the same role makes sense. Or if you were to develop into a better version of Gabe Davis, that would make sense. Gabe Davis actually not a terrible comp for Javon Baker either.
Yeah, I think he's got more redeeming qualities from a 3-level ceiling perspective than what Gabe Davis has shown at the next level. But I would agree from like a median comp standpoint, I can see Gabe Davis.
Yeah, some people are saying that I haven't read a whole lot on the Rashee Rice situation, but people are saying like it sounds / looks really bad, like
Yeah.
in terms of what we got here.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully, like I said, Rashee Rice's dumb friend took his car, because if Rashee Rice is doing that, he's not great. Not great, dude. If he
For
caused
sure.
a 6-car accident or whatever, like not great.
What am I missing with Bucky Irving? He's my RB3 in the class. Honestly, the thing that I had a problem with Bucky Irving, because I would agree, like he's got a lot more nuance as a runner than I would have expected coming in. But the problem is that yes, is his game speed a lot better than what he tested as? I would say so, but he needed to test as that 4-3, as that 4-4 guy to get the adequate draft capital, I would say. Like I feel like at this point, because he's a smaller player, because he tested the way he did, he's probably locked into being a 4th or 5th round NFL draft pick. With that, with Bucky Irving, and I mean, I just kind of spoiled what I was going to say about him. I feel like people or teams are going to see the measurements. Teams are going to see how he is, relatively nuanced as a runner, and they're going to pigeonhole him into maybe a Devin Singletary type of workload at the next level. And Devin Singletary, for what it's worth, landed with the Bills, had some utility in fantasy, but the upper ceiling, I just can't really see the NFL grasping on when it comes to Bucky Irving, because he just doesn't have the type of athleticism you would want from a smaller running back to be a down-to-down type of guy.
Yeah, I actually did like his tape, though. I think
I
he has
agree.
a possibility to be a
I
good
agree.
Devin Singletary. Like
He's
has
solid.
had moments where he's
Yeah.
been like an RB2 in fantasy. So I actually think Devin Singletary is a relatively good outcome.
Oh, I
for
agree.
Bucky Irving, what he could turn into.
I'm
Round
just saying,
draft capital would be the stretch there, because that's where Singletary went.
I'm just saying it more so if your or I don't want to say ceiling, but like if your, best case scenario, your, 80th plus percentile outcome is Devin Singletary, I would rather shoot a little bit higher. Is basically what I say. I'd rather go for
Yeah,
like
like
an
I don't
Isaiah
see the
Davis.
Kyron Williams
No.
comps that some people are throwing out there. Anyways,
No.
I do have to head off of here because I got some
Same.
Easter commitments here.
Same.
Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Cody Schrader, we'll see where he gets drafted. I don't really
Yep.
care that much. I think he's kind of a middling prospect. Anyways, if you guys are tuned in here, leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. About 300 of you watching in here concurrently. Really appreciate that. Make sure to tune in this coming week. We're going to be breaking down some rookie draft questions from you guys. We'll farm that out into our Discord and on Twitter. If you want to submit some conundrums that you guys are dealing with, we will tweet that out and throw that in the Discord very soon. AD Mitchell's Tale of the Tape will be coming out this week. I'm actually leaving on Wednesday for Mexico. So Wednesday to Wednesday this coming week will be a little bit lighter on the content, probably only 4 or 5 videos, maybe a couple live streams during that stretch. But yeah, should be a lot of fun. So happy Easter to everybody. Good stuff. Hopefully you guys, eat some turkey. I know we have turkey dinners. I don't know what you guys end up doing on Easter, but should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. We had our fish on Friday. Now, like you said, having a nice dinner tonight.
Awesome. Everyone, take it easy. Happy Easter. We'll talk to you soon.